This is TWiT.
A number of tech companies, including Apple and Google, have told their employees if you want to relocate, you can, and B, we will pay for your trip to a state where you can get an abortion, states where the abortions are legal. I think a lot of the tech community is saying that. Is that illegal, Brianna? Is it okay to say that? It seems like that might be, committing a crime.
I certainly think it's, it's opening them up to liability, certainly, because many of these states have laws, in fact, saying if you help someone with an abortion, you are also liable, right?
Yeah.
So I think the difference
Texas,
is many of these,
chiefly, yeah.
Yep. Correct. So I think the difference is many of these large companies have more resources to fight this in court than, say, maybe the average person in Texas living under the poverty line might have. I do just have to say, while I appreciate this gesture for it, it can't help but feel a little bit empty to me. I cannot imagine a woman in the tech industry wanting to go to her male boss and talking about like her abortion and like asking for reimbursement for a trip out of town and time off. Like it's appreciated, but it's entirely insufficient, especially when you consider many of these tech companies, their PACs literally donate to the politicians that now we're talking about a federal ban on abortion.
Kind of the least you could do in that category. Meta has done even almost a little bit less.
They've banned this, haven't they? They've banned discussion about the issue.
Yeah. So first they said, we intend to offer, and by the way, listen carefully to the verbiage, travel expense reimbursements to the extent permitted by law for employees who will need them to access out-of-state health care and reproductive services. We're in the process of assessing how best to do that given the legal complexities involved. So that's really only a half promise. And yes, you're right. They have banned any discussion of the Roe v. Wade Supreme Court decision, which came down this week, from their internal discussions. Although I kind of understand it's such a heated topic, they're afraid of, I don't know, Ian, fights breaking out on their Slack? I don't know.
Well, you see, I mean, I don't know. We talked about this in the office because I don't often comment on Twitter on American politics because I'm a guest here and I feel it's kind of rude.
Although soon to be a citizen.
This
right?
just, well, maybe. Or maybe soon to be going back to the UK.
Maybe change your mind. Yeah.
Honestly, that a lot of people who do have exit routes are taking them at the moment. We're seeing, I'm already seeing people moving out, or at least getting into the first stages of moving out. Look, I don't feel it's my position to comment, but I talked to my editor and said, look, I'm going to be talking about this. Is that a problem? And he's like, no, we're not the Washington Post. Go for it. But it is shameful how some media outlets have said to journalists, you can't talk about this online, except in the context of your paper. Otherwise, you'll be seen as biased. When the hell did personal opinion become just not allowed? So, yeah, I applaud tech companies for doing this. There are some, as has been pointed out, some massive holes in their strategy, particularly as they're funding the very political candidates that are pushing this forward. But, there is more that can be done by the tech industry, and it's about time it stepped up to the plate and did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also very exclusive and privileged to be able to, if you have this job, to work at a tech company that will offer you this sort of thing. A lot of people don't have an exit strategy at all. A lot of people have to stay where they are and buckle in. I used to have sort of like this mindset of, well, if things just get bad, I guess I'll just leave. But then I really rooted myself.
It's super privileged, right? And the people, frankly, the people who will, the women who will have the hardest time with this are people who can't relocate, right?
Yeah.
It's a privileged
mom who's already working her
broke.
butt off.
Those are the people that this is going to harm most of all. We can say from a point of privilege, well, I'm just leaving, but that's not an option for.
Well, I mean, it's not even that. I mean, we did a piece on looking at sort of pregnancy and menstrual tracking apps, And somebody just said, it's like, well, look, what you need to do is get a burner phone and just use these apps on here. And if you're going out of state, use that. It's like, really? You're living paycheck to paycheck. You're having to go 500-600 miles for an abortion, and now you've got to get a burner phone as well. It's just not going to happen.
You shouldn't need OPSEC to get reproductive health care. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Google has told its employees you can relocate without justification following the decision. You can move.
Yeah, they'll still sell the data to identify these women to other people, however. It's like, yeah, we'll look after our own, but everyone else, yeah, we've got a business to run. Thanks very much.
Well, that's the second tech angle on this, and actually a very, very big tech angle on this is the issue of privacy. And, I've said this last few shows, I've been kind of blasé about privacy. Look, if they want to do targeted ads, I understand the ad business wants targeting. I'm not crazy about it, but I don't see much of the harm. But when you are living in a state where the government is actively searching your social media posts or your search posts, trying to find out if you're doing something they don't like, that's problematic. And that's exactly, it seems, what's going to happen in many states.
Yeah. I mean, the difference between now and the last time abortion was illegal is today we live in a surveillance state, right? Where all this information is very quantifiable and prosecutors can far more easily build a case against you. It's fairly infuriating.
Yeah. And it's worth mentioning also that this is something I actually learned yesterday because I was trying to be helpful because I had friends who were like, well, what are we supposed to do now? We live in California. We have like this privilege. We should do something. And I was like, we should probably get people to move to encrypted messaging. And then I had a friend of mine who is an engineer, and he reached out to me and he's like, by the way, look up what happened to Signal late last year and how their data got used by law enforcement to sort of implicate people. Because
how did
even
that
if they're
happen?
Not sharing,
Signal says we don't know anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's because people had set their phones up badly.
So
okay.
So if you're backing up messages to iCloud, they're no longer encrypted.
Well, but also, I mean, Signal by default will keep your messages as long as you have them. And the case that you mentioned was just like people had just kept these messages on their phones, and their phones.
So it's unencrypted.
As do I, unfortunately, as well.
So, Flo, is the issue that it's unencrypted on the phone? I mean,
Once
and also if I have co-opted your phone, everything's in the clear. It's only it's in transit that it's safe. But on your phone,
Signal still had to give up the timestamps.
They did.
Okay. Yeah. I forgot exactly what had happened, but
they don't know They don't know metadata. They don't, or do they? Do they know who you sent messages to? I guess they do.
So PC Mag was where I read this yesterday because I just was like Googling it real quick and I had completely forgot. They had talked about this is what law enforcement asks from us when they give us a search warrant. And they were saying one of the things is like timestamps could be used to implicate you and just, it's like a freaking serial case.
It's one more bit of information that law enforcement can use and then, try
that a lawyer could use to, come after you.
I do just want to say here, and look, the techno angle, like this is a tech show, obviously it's important to hit. I literally used to live right next to the abortion clinic that this Mississippi case is based on, right? I didn't grow up in Silicon Valley or Massachusetts. I grew up in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I say this with respect because I know engineers and tech people, we see this problem and we're like, how can we address this? We naturally want to use the skills that we have and the things that we're thinking about. But I have to share with you, think about the people in Mississippi that this court case is about, right? They live in the Delta, which has the poorest literacy in the entire United States. Many of them are never going to leave the town that they were born in. I mean, access to electricity is an issue in the Delta, let alone school. and then you're talking about like your encrypted message app. It just, it feels so respectfully tone deaf, in my opinion. I mean, what we need is, this is going to be solved through an electoral process. And frankly, it's going to be solved through politicians that are more willing to use their power than, unfortunately, the people that we have right now. There are executive orders that we can do. There are things at a state level we can do. There are things that we can do with having abortion clinics built on federal lands. Like, there are any number of actions we can be taking. Encrypted like signal apps are not the solution here. In fact, I would argue it gives you the appearance of having power while not really being addressing the central problem. Respectfully.
That's a good point, Brianna.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Thank you for that. And you're right, Brianna. It really is like, for me, it was an emotional reaction because I'm living in a state where it didn't just turn immediately. So I was trying to look for something tangible that I could contribute. But at the core of it, it's not really addressing the people who are really, going to need this help.
So given that, and I accept that, I do still think this is an opportunity for us to look at privacy and how much big tech knows about us. And now say, as, contrary to what my position has been for years, this is actually a big issue. Has our privacy disappeared? And what's criminalized next? And is government willing to weaponize big tech? And I think they are. And what is big tech going to do about it?
Well, I think individuals are going to start weaponizing big tech. As we've seen in the Texas and Mississippi laws, I believe, they're now offering a $10,000 bounty on someone if you can sue someone who has helped in an abortion. And location data firms are happy to sell you the information that a particular person has been to a particular area. I think there is going to be a very nasty trend in these kind of things. And okay, Scott McNeely said a long time ago, privacy is dead. When the Edward Snowden revelations came out, he tweeted out, I didn't realize quite how right I was. Now we're about to see the real world applications of that. It's not going to be pretty.
We're also sitting in a situation, it happened in the UK, it's happened in Australia, where the government is really weighing whether encryption should be even allowed, whether privacy should be even allowed. Oof. And this is becoming a scary issue here.
I mean, think about it in a wider sense. Clarence Thomas in his dissent very clearly indicated that, gay marriage is up for debate. There are a lot of these civil rights going beyond reproductive access that are very much in the air. Can you imagine like a future in this country where people that, like, everyone that's queer now came out online, right? Or there's an electronic trail. It's just, I mean, for my generation, I went to the library to read books on it. That's just completely different today. It's so quantified that, if there is this indication that, the federal protection, which is based on the same law, which is based on Roe, that allows, private sex acts between individuals, that's out of, it's a sexual privacy issue. There are cases that can be brought now with that, right? Or gay marriage, or forcibly outing people, transgender people, or increasingly in the sites of the religious right. So I think that this talk about privacy is going to become increasingly important as these tools are weaponized against these individuals if the Supreme Court stays on this course.
You remember last year, a Catholic priest was outed because a Catholic Substack publication, got his movements from Grindr.
Yeah.
Grindr historically had terrible privacy protections. It's widely used by gay men to hook up. What kind of chill does this send over the use of technology in general? I would submit technology's got to pay attention to this because there's a real worry that people will stop using it, or they will start fuzzing their information, or, this is going to rebound badly on big tech that doesn't take privacy seriously, isn't it? Or do they not care?
I honestly think they don't care. They think at this point You're so bought into the system. There is no way for you to get out of it. We'll do some nice PR moves. We'll make it seem like we care, but we're still going to sell that data. We're still going to invade your privacy because you are the product. And that's the way it's going now. I think there seems to have been a shift in the last 5 years, maybe. I particularly noticed this with Google, where they've moved from innovation to just pure rent seeking. And it's now just like, yeah, you've bought into the ecosystem. We've got 10 years of your data. Now we're going to take our money. Thank you.
You have an article in the Register, Jessica Lyons Hardcastle. She's
great.
She did she requested Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Twitter and said on Friday morning, what will your company do to ensure the data you collect isn't going to be used to build a case against women seeking abortions and people, organizations providing abortion support? A whole day went by. None of them responded.
Not a sausage. Absolutely nothing. And it was shameful.
They haven't figured it out yet. That's why their PR is still writing up the press release.
And I can guarantee you that PR will come up with a press release that mealy mouths it to the degree that it gives them
it's
quite a bit of
not like
leeway
they didn't have notice on this, though.
Yeah.
This thing was leaked.
We've been talking about it for weeks.
We knew it was coming. Yeah. So they should have had their ducks in a row and been
like writing an obituary.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, you're right on that one. No,
we told people a month ago after the leak of the Alioto decision, stop using any period tracker apps that you're using because that will announce to the world and law enforcement that you're pregnant.
Yeah, I mean, although having said, we talked to a lot of the period tracker people, and they're kind of absolutely, we will not share this data with anyone.
Yeah, because that's the end of their business.
But the bigger risk is that this data is being sold by everyone else, and also, I mean, there was a marvelous idea that maybe men should download these period apps and start really screwing with their data sets. Which is kind of cute, but I don't think it's going to help that much.
No, because if someone's pursuing a case against you, they're going to go get they're going to subpoena that app directly. A corrupted data set is not going to help that in any way. I also just do want to add to this conversation, and this is uncomfortable. And I say this respectfully, but this is an important show today. I have been raising the alarm on structural sexism in the technology industry for a long time.
Gamergate, of course, was a huge issue for you.
100%. So if you're talking about the same men that literally can't treat women fairly at work, like asking them to come to the rescue on like period apps. I mean, I'm sorry. Even right before this show, I had a thoroughly unpleasant Twitter row with someone that's the head of AR at Google, right? And Elizabeth Warren was like posting a really lovely, she's mad. I posted a video about it. And he's like, well, she wants to regulate big tech, like that's the beginning and end of where a lot of people care about this. It's at their own door. Yeah. So I really think that these structural problems when it comes to how tech treats women, how tech treats trans people, how tech treats gay people and Black people, when you're coming to those things really being weaponized by prosecutors because of the Supreme Court, I'm ultra worried about that.
Yeah.